I didn't hear a word that you said, bro. I did not hear a word. I was completely zoned. I mean, I was listening. Don't get me wrong, like I said, but I tried to keep it well-rounded. I know you wanted me to go to other things, but yeah, Halo felt pretty good, and we were running out of time there. The cylinder, I should do the cylinder right now. Napoleon. Step by step, bro. I tried to do as good as I could. I got frustrated there a couple times, but it's like it's a vibe. It's definitely assault. Like it's definitely like it's like a door stopper. Like a door. I can't explain it. It's like someone's grabbing onto you, but your entire body. I can't explain it. There's definitely an attachment there. That's all I'm saying. I should see it. Like I can only imagine what was done there. Like sabotage. You know what I mean? Hear that stuff? I go pro. I don't want to hear it. But I don't want to hear it all. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm at. GG. Just start throwing stuff out there just to see what it happens. That's definitely what it is. There's definitely a trick to it. You motherfucker. I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna come up with a device and beat your ass. I swear to you. It did there for a minute. Dude, it was like Snug where like she tried gripping me and then and then Cortana came in and flipped the script on her. That's why I said her name. Sitting there attacking my heart with the pinky, the controller shift. I don't know what it is. Finn. You're out of your damn mind. That's all I have to say. You're out of your damn mind. Look, and did you see that? The box acted offended. It acted offended. Like it didn't just break the law and try to kill me. You fool. That's what they're doing. So what he's doing is taking the button and like, I don't know what the fuck. He's like vacuuming my heartbeat. I don't know how to explain it. It's like a vamp. It is literally a vampire. I don't know what that was. That's why I said that. It's like I'm sitting there with my pinky, and you can even feel it on the button. If you take your hand on the button. It's like your pinky becomes one with the button. And then you can feel the vacuum. There we go. That no scope, bro, was was unreal for the bomb. Like off the rack. Well, I'm eating my cereal, then I'm ready to play. I'm ready to game on some Halo. That felt pretty good. Napoleon, that felt pretty good. I hope everything's alright. Going through the map and everything. I know French is a huge thing here, so. Oh, France. I don't feel bad about quitting that. It was over anyway, so it was like whatever. But and it wasn't no like spectacular play, so I don't feel bad about it. That one though, nah, no, bro. I still call BS on that one. No way, Jose. Bro, I don't believe that you did that. Bro. So, 1914. I need to look up your time frame, Napoleon. I don't even know. Let me look that up. Contempt of. I don't even know. I don't even know. 1821 is when he died. That's not what I expected. That's 100 years later. I don't even know. Is this 100 Years' War, I guess? See, dude, you were speaking. I was lost. I was completely focused on the words alone and what was going on in that moment. I just don't know. Let me read about you, first of all. I guess Lafayette would have been near to that, if not during that same time.
King of the Hill.
All the inventions being made. Probably. Sitting around. Obviously.
Hill incoming. Hill ready.
Enemy there.
Enemy team took the hill. Hill control. Enemy team took the hill. Enemy about to score.
Enemy there.
Enemy team score. Hill incoming. Hill ready. Hill control.
You don't want she shed?
Your team scored. Hill incoming. Hill ready. Killing spree. Enemy team took the hill. Double kill.
Ah. Like lucky ass nade. Lucky nade, bro. Bro.
In my sights.
Now I'm gonna be doing that nonstop.
Hill control.
All the bros are coming out. They were trying to kill Hindu with him. That's funny. Now I see. That makes sense. You were trying to shoot that? It's like I read it and I was like, really?
Enemy team took the hill.
He basically objects to everything. Like he has something to say about everything. No, it's never ending. I want to hear the ending of this. I really do.
Enemy about to score. Hill
Upanishad,
control.
do all of them. We're still going, bro. We're still talking.
Your team about to score.
It's just one endless walk on the beach. You know what I mean? Through time. He lives forever, but he has me. You know what I mean?
Your team scored. Hill incoming. Hill
That's
ready.
pretty funny.
Enemy
Or she,
team
whoever
took
may
the
be.
hill.
As mean as I am, you know why. Be real. You're hateful. Witch, you're hateful.
Hill control.
Enemy there. In my
It's
sights.
so addicting, Halo. Intervention from Halo.
Enemy
That's
team
funny.
took the hill. Hill control. Perfect. Double kill.
No way, dude.
Enemy there.
Hill control.
Hostile spotted. In my sights. Target spotted.
I go pro.
Enemy team took the hill.
In my sights.
Enemy team took the hill. Enemy about to score. Hill control.
Enemy there.
Your team about to score.
I was waiting on
Enemy
it.
team
I was
took
about
the
to
hill.
turn, but I got greedy.
Your team scored. Hill incoming. Hill ready. Enemy team took the hill.
Multiple.
control. Enemy team took the hill. Hill control. Enemy team took the hill. Hill control. Nearing victory. Enemy team took the hill. Victory.
Double-digit assists. It's consistent. Come on. Come on, bro. Bro, come on.
King of the hill.
Called you up by name. Started throwing up threads from the past.
Hill incoming.
That's
Hill
pretty
ready.
funny. Nothing but.
Hill control.
Notorious. They're notorious.
Enemy team took the hill.
The Billy Badass over here.
Hill control.
Take no prisoners. Damn, dude.
Enemy team took
Except
the
for
hill.
debate. I'm over here playing Halo and they're like ruthlessly killing each other. You're real. What really happened here? 60 minutes.
Hill control.
Master Chief, bro. I'm pretty excited to play that deck though. Both of them, really. I mean, you never go wrong. It's magic. Really. Enough to have fun with. That red white though, that was pro, dude. I was throwing it down.
Enemy team took the
He was trying to
hill.
resist me. I was like, nah, dude.
Enemy about to score.
The way standard works here, you're gonna have to go this way, bro. You need some tokens if you're gonna be doing that. But it worked out. It worked out good.
Hill controlled.
Oh, dude, you scared me. Red, pinky.
Your team about to score.
Don't scare me like that. That duck, too. Did you see that duck I did on that guy, bro?
Your team scored. Hill incoming.
I ducked right behind that
Hill
little shelf. Popped up on him.
Enemy team took the hill.
I was going pretty hard at the end. I knew he gave that speech, and I was like, all right, this is it.
Hill controlled.
I see how the interruptions get old. And after listening to it, it's like, all right, I'll shut up. Try to anyway. Going down, bro. Oh.
Enemy team took the hill.
Some dude, I'm not even gonna brag about it. I'm just gonna let it be. The video's there if you wanna watch it.
No scope. Hill controlled.
No.
Hill controlled. No scope. Enemy team took the hill.
I am deadly. Wow. There you go, Brady. Thank you. Can you clean that up?
Enemy team took
You guys
the
just
hill.
standing there. I played a game.
Enemy about to score. Hill control. Your team about to score.
Oh, of course, dude. You already knew. I saw you working in that corner. You see
Your
that?
team scored.
It's like a movie. I swear to you, bro. What? You see why I'm getting mad?
Hill ready.
Like a fucking movie. Woo, 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 woo. You know what I mean? Right around the corner
Enemy
every
team
time.
took the hill.
Three Stooges. It's a clean double. Oh, and he didn't get it? That was clean.
Enemy about to score. Enemy team scored. Hill incoming.
I guess they agreed on my my leg theory.
Hill ready. Hill control.
I don't know. It's definitely a thumbs up on that one.
Enemy team took the hill. to score. Enemy team took the hill. Hill control. Your team scored. Hill incoming. Hill ready. Enemy team took the hill. Control. Enemy team took the hill.
Target spotted.
Enemy about to score. Hill control. Nearing victory. Enemy team took the hill. Enemy team scored. Hill incoming. Hill ready. Enemy team took the hill.
Okay, you're shooting a little too fast and too accurate. You're shooting too fast and too accurate, and I can't hit you.
Enemy team
Is that like a
took the
perk?
hill.
Oh, and then I killed my guy. He still got it. He still got it. Damn, bro. Odd angle. Never knew.
Enemy team took the
I don't
hill.
understand.
Hill control. Double kill.
Prime Minister? The Messiah of the Cylinder.
Do this 7 minutes a day.
What say you?
Chapter 1 of the Messiah of the Cylinder. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Messiah of the Cylinder by Victor Rousseau. Over the Coffee Cups. If I recall the conversation of that evening so minutely as to appear tedious, I must plead that this was the last occasion on which I saw Sir Spofford alive. In such a case, one naturally remembers incidents and recalls words that otherwise might have been forgotten. Besides, here were the two opposed opinions of life, as old as Christianity, confronting each other starkly. And as will be seen, the test was to come in such manner as only one of us could have imagined. I picture old Sir Spofford as on that evening, courteous, restrained, yet with the heat of conviction burning in his measured phrases, and Esther listening with quaint seriousness, turning from her father to Lazaroff and back, and sometimes to me, as each of us spoke. Outside, in the moonlight, the shadow of the Institute lay black across the garden of Sir Spofford's house. The dining room was fragrant with the scent of the tea roses that grew beneath the windows. The Biological Institute was less than 5 years old, but the London smoke, which drifted beyond Croydon, already had darkened the bright red bricks to a tolerable terracotta. The ivy had grown a good way up the walls. The Institute was accommodating itself to the landscape, as English buildings had the knack of doing. Lazaroff and I had been there under Sir Spofford since the foundation, and there never had been any others upon the staff, the Institute being organized for specialized work of narrow scope, though of immense perspective. It was devoted to private research into the nature of life in the application of the Mendelian law to vertebrates. The millionaire who had endowed it for this purpose and then died opportunely had not had time to hamper us with restrictions. Next to endowing us, his death was, perhaps, the most imaginative thing that he had ever accomplished. The government concerned itself only about our vivisection certificates, but our animal experimentation was too innocuous for these to be much more than a safeguard. Carroll's investigations in New York, a year or two before, had shown the world that cell and tissue can not only survive the extinction of the general vital quantity, but, under proper conditions, proliferate indefinitely. We were investigating tissue life, and our proceedings were quite innocuous. It will be seen that we already had gotten away from Mendel, though we did breed Belgian hares, whose disappearance always caused Esther distress, and we made fanciful annotations inside ruled margins about agoutis and allelomorphs. I am conscious now that we worked constantly under a sense of constraint. There was an unnecessary secrecy in all our plans and actions. Why? I think, when I look back, that it was not because of what we were doing, but rather of what it might become necessary some day to do. The work was so near to sacrilege. I mean, we viewed the animal structure as a mechanism rather than as a temple. That, of course, was then the way of all biologists, but that, I think, was the cause of our rather furtive methods. We were hot on the trail of the mystery of life, and never knew upon what intimacies we might stumble. We sought to discover how and where consciousness is born out of unconscious tissue vitality. Lazaroff had the intuition of genius, and his inductions were amazing.
Enemy flag
Still, that
returned.
problem baffled him. Penel, I hear him say, at a certain period of growth, when millions of cells, working cooperatively, have grouped themselves in certain patterns, completing the design, consciousness comes into play. Why? Is it a byproduct, the creak that accompanies the wheel? But nature produces nothing in vain. Then why should we know that we exist? Why?
Return.
Lazaroff was a Prussian Pole, I believe, though he spoke half a dozen languages fluently. Keen and fanatical, daring, inflexible, he seemed to me the sort of man who would welcome the chance to proclaim a holy war for science and die in the front rank. He had the strange old German faith that was called monism, and his hope for the human race was as strong as his contempt for the man of our day. The race is all, Penel, I hear him say again. We of this age, who pride ourselves
can't
on
get a good
our
beat on him at
accomplishments,
all.
are only emerging from the dawn of civilization. We are still encumbered with all the ghostly fears that obsessed our ancestors of the Stone Age. But others will build the temple of truth upon the foundations that we are rearing. Oh, if I could have been born 100 years ahead, for the change is coming fast, Penel.
Return.
And when I professed to doubt the nearness of that change, if your frontal area varied by only 5 centimeters, Penel, you would believe. That is your tragedy, to fall short of the human norm by 5 centimeters of missing forehead. I can see his well-proportioned figure and the mane of black hair thrown back, the flashing eyes. Animated by religious impulse, Lazaroff would have gone to the stake as unconcernedly as he would certainly have burned others. He had invented a system of craniometry by which he professed to discover the mentality of his subject, and I was his first. Certainly the conditions were ideal for our work. We were both young men, enthusiasts, and Sir Spofforth Moore, our chief, was nearing 80. The trustees had picked him for the post because of his great name in the medical world. He was an ideal chief. He interfered with us no more than the trustees did. He asked for no results. The institute existed only for patient research. Yes, the millionaire had certainly displayed imagination for a millionaire, and it was fortunate that he died before his hobby, whose inception came to him, I believe, from reading sensational newspaper articles, grew into an obsession. The trustees refused to accept Sir Spofforth's resignation when he became infirm. He lent the institute dignity and prestige. I doubt whether he knew much of Mendelism or had followed the work of the past 5 years. He knew little of what we were doing, and initialed our vouchers without ever demurring. Of course, he tried to keep in touch with us, and I will confess that our routine work was mainly a cover for the daring plan that Lazaroff had, bit by bit, outlined to me. You see, Penel, he explained in self-justification, the work must be done. And where are there such opportunities as here? Science cannot be bound by the provisions of a dead man's deed. It is not likely that Sir Spofforth would object either, but the trustees might have intelligence enough to pick up the idea from the quarterly reports if we were entirely frank. And a biologist with imagination is called a charlatan. And we must work quickly while we have this chance. When Sir Spofforth dies, the trustees will probably pick some fussy little busybody who will want to poke his nose into everything and take personal charge. Then, what of our experiment? The idea aroused me to as much enthusiasm as Lazaroff, and yet there was disappointment in the knowledge that we should never know the results of it. In brief, Lazaroff's scheme was this: if animal tissues, removed from the entire organism, can exist in a condition of suspended vitality for an indefinite time, at a temperature suited to them in conditions which forbid germ life to flourish, why not the living animal? Lazaroff had selected 3 monkeys from among our stock for the experiment.
5 minutes.
They were to be sealed each in a vacuum cylinder of special design and left for a century. The more I think about the plan, the more enthusiastic I become, Pennell. Lazaroff cried. If the unconscious cell life survives indefinitely, why not the entire organism plus consciousness?
Flag on mark.
Much may happen in 100 years, Lazaroff, I answered. True, Pennell, but they will never find the vault. Even now, before it is sealed, it would not be looked for, built as it is into the cellar wall beneath the freezing plant. It was to this end, you know, that I brought down workmen from London instead of employing local talent. Well, we shall leave papers. Earthquakes and revolutions may happen overhead, but 100 years hence, when the papers are opened, a search will be made. Our traveling simians will be found by a very different world, I assure you, Pennell. He had the light of an enthusiast in his eyes, and his mood aroused my own imagination. What use is that, Lazaroff? I cried. We shall not know the results of our experiment, and what message can monkeys carry to that world concerning ours? If monkeys, why not men? He looked at me fixedly, smiling ever so little, and I perceived that he had drawn the expression of that thought out of the depths of my own mind by his strong will. Now he nodded in approbation. Pennell, he began with hesitation. Do you want to know why I myself do not? He stopped. I am almost ashamed to tell you what it is that makes me wish to live out my life among my contemporaries. He continued. How strong the primal instincts are in all of us, Arnold. Nature, with her blind but perfectly directed will, warring on mind, and mind rising slowly to dominate her, armed, as she is, with her dreadful arsenal of 1,000 superstitions, instincts, terrors. It is a fearful battle, Arnold, and many of us fall by the way. He turned aside abruptly, as if he regretted the half-confidence. I thought I knew what he meant, and I was stirred too. We dined that night with Sir Spofford and Esther in their new house within a stone's throw of the Institute. Esther was the only child. Her mother had died during her infancy. We four had been intimates during the whole 5 years of the Institute's existence. Strangely alone, we four, in the busy Surrey town. The memory of that last night is the most poignant that remains to me. How far away it seems, and how long ago. If I could have known then that our companionship was ended. The argument to which I have referred began after dinner, over our coffee. It was our usual hour for disputations, but they had never been so keen, nor Lazaroff so outspoken. Sir Spofford was a man of the old school of thought, religious, tolerant, and withal more disquieted than he himself was aware by the dominant materialism of the younger men. And Lazaroff had all the tactlessness of his Jena training. There were rumors of war with Germany, but Sir Spofford was too old to adjust his mind immediately to this conception. He grew heated, as always, on the cynical scheme of the democratic government, dictated by its greed for power, to force Ulster beneath an alien yoke upon the loud and stunning silence of our English pacifists and lovers of oppressed nations, where their sincerity would be best proved. He deplored the new and dangerous doctrines that were permeating society, the decay of morals, the loss of reverence and pride in service.
Defend on this last minute.
Civilization, he said, seemed dying, and democracy its murderer. Dying? It is still struggling in its birth throes, cried Lazaroff impetuously. I grant that the democracy of today has proved its futility, but there is a new democracy to come. We are enslaved by the traditions of the past, by a worn-out religious system based upon the primitive animistic notion of a soul. There is the fatal weakness of our democracy. Science has never found the smallest trace of a soul. On the contrary, we know beyond doubt that we live in a mechanistic universe of absolute determinism. I see Sir Spofford's tolerant yet eager look as he answered him. I grant you that the soul is not to be found in the dissecting room, Herman. He answered,
Overtime.
I, as you know, have devoted my life to the empirical investigation of truth, and I do not decry the method. But you cannot ignore the interior way of analysis through the one thing we know most intimately, consciousness. A byproduct of matter, answered Lazaroff contemptuously. Or, if we want to be precisely true, the sum and substance of cell consciousness. Well, throw the blame on the cell, then, in the modern fashion, said Sir Spofford, smiling. I doubt, though, whether you have solved the one big problem by creating some million smaller ones. On the contrary, you are postulating a hierarchy of intelligences, quite in the Catholic fashion. If brain consciousness is not a specialized form of omniscient consciousness, how does the brainless amoeba find its food and engulf it, or the vine it supports? If you have robbed us of the abortive hope of saving the little empire of the brain beyond the change of death, and I deny even that entirely, some of us have identified consciousness with a non-material personality functioning through all life and fashioning it. Vitalism, scoffed Lazaroff. I watched Esther's eager face as she looked from one speaker to the other. Sir Spofford seemed more agitated than the situation warranted, and I saw him glance at his daughter a little nervously before he answered. Herman, I repeat that I have given my life to scientific investigation, he replied, but I have always recognized the validity of the metaphysical inquiry. I believe faith and science have found their paths convergent. Lodge thinks so, too. Kelvin took that stand. James, your great psychologist, shifted before he died. Science must confine her activities within their natural bounds and not seek to play a pontifical part, or the excesses of the scholastics will be repeated in a new and darker age. I cannot agree with you, cried Lazaroff vehemently. An age is dawning when, relieved from their chains, men will look open-eyed into nature to learn her secrets. Today, civilization is being choked to death by the effete, the defective, whom a too benign humanitarianism suffers to live beneath the shelter of a worn-out faith. The fearful menace of a race of defectives has laid hold of the popular imagination. Soon we shall follow the lead of progressive America and forbid them to propagate their kind. Here any statesman who dared suggest sterilization would be hounded from office. But England is awakening. It will go, that relic of degrading, savage superstition called the soul, the barbarous legacy of the ages enshrined in 100 fairy stories. Science will rule. Man will be free. The logical state, finely conceived by Wells, without its rudimentary appendixes and fish gills, will be the nation of the future. For we are outgrowing childish things. Man is coming of age. If only I could live to see it. But I was born a century too soon. The expression on Lazaroff's face at that moment was so singular that I could not take my eyes away from it. It will be a world of physical and mental perfection, too, he cried. Of free men and women, freely mating, separating when the mating impulse is dead. Yes, he is right, father, Esther interposed eagerly. Whatever else may come, the hour of women's liberation is striking. That hour struck many times in the ancient world, my dear, her father answered, and it brought not liberation but slavery. He turned to Lazaroff. You want a world of men and women reared like prize cattle and governed by laws as mechanistic as your universe, he said. Well, Herman, you have had that world. That was the pre-Christian world. Your free love, your eugenics, has been tried in Rome, in Sparta, in many an ancient kingdom, and we know what those civilizations were. If you eugenists only knew the dreadful crop of dragon's teeth that you are scattering today upon the fertile soil of the unthinking mind. Because we, unfortunately live in the millennial lull of a transitional age, you think that human nature has changed, that the fury of the Crusades will never be renewed in fantastic social wars, and the madness of religious fratricide and the madness of science become faith. All the old evils are lying low, lurking in the minds of men, ready to spring forth in all their ancient fury when the wise and illogical compromises evolved through centuries of experience have been discarded. I sometimes think that Holy Russia has man's future in her charge, for without Christianity the moral nature of man will be where it has been in ages past. Social and economic readjustments leave it unchanged. A religion of slaves, of the weak and incompetent, said Lazaroff loudly. You think, then, that human passions have become emulsified by education? What a delusion! Unquestionably. Permit me to refer to myself as an example of the crass materialist, for I do not believe in anything but matter. Matter is soul, as Haeckel proves. Yet, I am not on that account a man of base impulses. I do not want to wound, to kill, to steal, to torture. Are you quite sure you know yourself, Herman? But I utterly reject the efficacy of your Christianity, except in this low order of civilization. It is a dead faith, with its foolish miracles, its preposterous and unscientific dualism. And I say,
By no means.
cried
This is
Sir
a game.
Spofford, rising out of his chair, that it is
I mean, I guess,
precisely
right.
the Christian norm, the unattainable
We do it all,
ideal
right?
of Christ, working in the human heart, that has freed civilization from cruelty and shame. Why, look backward before Christ lived, and forward. Don't you see that we are actually indwelling in him, according to his promise? Think of the Christians burned as living torches in Nero's time, and read the writings of contemporary Romans, men of disciplined lives and a mentality as great as ours. Read Pliny, Tacitus, Seneca. Read of the hopelessness of life when Rome was at her highest, and see if this stirred them. Picture Marcus Aurelius, the noble Stoic, presiding over the amphitheater. Study the manners and morals of Athens when her light burned most brightly. Contrast 8,000 years of man's abasement, and try to set the Inquisition against that. Future ages will say this, that nobody, not one of our statesmen, saw the course that had been set when the civil state was first established. Never before in history a tribe or nation existed but grew up round the focus of some god. The churchless state is a body without a soul. Warnings multiply, in France and in America, but who can read them? When religion goes, the spirit of the race is dying. It is just the ideal of Christ, enshrined in the minds of a few leaders of character and trained conviction, that has kept the world on its slow course of progress. And nothing else saves us from the unstable tyrannies of ancient days.
I go pro. I'm good.
I was so stirred by Sir Spofford's eloquence that I clapped my hands vigorously, although I did not wholly agree with
I
him.
appreciate you.
Esther was staring at Lazaroff. She was partly convinced and wanted him to answer her father. But Lazaroff, ignoring her gaze, scowled at me across the table. "So you are of the same mind, are you, Cannell?" he asked, not trying to disguise his sneer. "And you don't imagine that it is your missing 5 centimeters? Well, I hope that you may have your chance to find out for yourself. I hope you may indeed." He nodded and smiled in a rather evil fashion. "Well, I must really offer you all an apology," said Sir Spofford penitently. "Enough of these debatable subjects for a week at least. We two shall never agree on politics or religion, Herman. Let us go upstairs." End of Chapter 1, read by Brian Fullen, Plano, Texas, January 2025. Chapter 2 of The Messiah of the Cylinder by Victor Rousseau. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Great Experiment.
Come on.
Since Sir Spofforth was a little infirm and leaned on my arm to make his slow ascent of the stairs, we entered the drawing room a full minute after the others. The room was empty. Esther and Lazaroff had gone into the big conservatory that opened out of the south side.
They will not go in.
I heard the rustle of
Come
the
on.
girl's dress as she moved among the palms, and Lazaroff speaking earnestly in a low voice. "Sit
I
down,
can feel
Arnold,"
it. It's a pool.
said Sir Spofforth,
It won't
subsiding
pull on.
stiffly into his armchair. "Thank you, my boy. I feel old age coming
The
swiftly
cylinder there
upon
won't
me
pull on.
nowadays. No, I am not self-deceived. It is strange, this sense of the daily diminution of the physical powers, and not at all unpleasant either. It seems familiar, too, as if one had passed through it plenty of times before. It is something like bedtime, Arnold, but I hope and believe there will be a tomorrow, for I assure you I have an almost boyish zest for life, though rather contemplative than energetic for a while, till I have rested. There's a little forgetfulness of names and places, but memory seems to become more luminous as it falls back upon itself. Well, someday you will experience this. You two must carry on the work of the Institute. Herman is an able fellow, in spite of his mechanistic notions, but I wonder whether any woman could be happy with him." He watched me rather keenly as he said that. "There's only one thing makes me want to live a little longer, Arnold," he continued, "and that is Esther's future. It would be a great satisfaction to me to see her settled happily before I go. Forgive an old man's frankness if I say that sometimes I have almost thought you two cared for each other." "You're quite right in part, sir," I replied. "I do care for Esther a good deal, and she, I am sure, has a very warm feeling for you, Arnold. There is nobody whom I would rather have for Esther's husband than yourself. Well, sir, the fact is, we are not sure that our views are altogether harmonious," I confessed. "I am, as you know, rather skeptical about the newest views for revolutionizing women's status, while Esther is a full-fledged suffragist and has exalted notions about the race of the future. Tush, my boy. Never hold back proposing marriage because of intellectual differences. The race spirit, sitting up aloft and pulling the strings, is laughing at you. But Sir Spofforth,
There he is,
to be
right there,
candid,
that one.
it was not
It's
I
going
who
the
yelled
opposite
that.
way. It's pulling
I
at me.
answered.
Come here, red boy.
I see.
Red girl, come here.
He answered,
Red lady.
nodding his head. Then, very seriously, "My boy, I want you to win her. It would embitter my last days to see my daughter the wife of Herman Lazaroff. I have watched and tried to study him. It isn't his materialism, Arnold. It's his infernal will. He'll break everything and everybody that conflicts with it when he wakes up and knows his powers. Now he doesn't understand himself at all. He can see nothing interiorly, as good old Swedenborg would say. I tell you, Herman Lazaroff, able fellow as he is, and splendid brain, is a machine of devilish energy and, unfortunately, passion for purely destructive purposes. Like most old men, he had the habit of falling into soliloquy, and toward the end of his speech his voice dropped, and he spoke rather to himself than to me. Though I remembered his words afterward, at the time I regarded his indictment as the prejudice of an octogenarian. He was in his 80th year, and there was no doubt his
All the
keen
cylinders
mind
have
was
been thrown
failing.
out.
I was searching for a reply when Esther and Lazaroff came back from the conservatory. Esther's face was flushed, and she looked utterly miserable, but I was amazed to see the expression upon Lazaroff's. He was deathly white, and his black eyes seemed to gleam with infernal resolution. At that moment it did occur to me that Sir Spofforth might be wiser in his judgment than I. Lazaroff came forward quietly and sat down, and I tried to make the occasion for conversation. But he, seated motionless and abstracted, seemed hardly to hear me, and rose from his chair after a few moments, looking toward Esther, who was standing near the conservatory entrance. Her brown-colored gown gleamed golden in the lamplight. "Sir Spofforth, Miss Esther is interested in our new freezing plant," he said. "I thought, with your permission, that I would take her to see it lit up by electricity. You'll come too, Pennell?" "Wouldn't daytime be better, Lazaroff?" I suggested, and I did not know what was the cause of the vaguely felt distrust that prompted my words. Certainly I had no fears of any sort, or reason for any, yet, looking at Lazaroff's face, now flushed and somehow sinister, I remembered Sir Spofforth's words again. "Let us go tonight," said Esther, and it seemed to me that there was a note of penitence in her voice, as if she wished to make Lazaroff amends. She came slowly across the room toward us. She looked at Lazaroff, I thought remorsefully, and at me with an expression of understanding that I never had seen in her eyes before. My heart leaped up to meet that message, but that was the instant signal, flash of souls, and the next moment I detected in her glance the same sense of foreboding that mine must have shown her. It is strange how instantaneously such complexities present themselves with convincing power. Though the knowledge lay latent in my mind, I am sure now I was aware that I should never set eyes upon Sir Spofforth in life or death again.
Yep, it is getting pretty late. Getting pretty tired.
Strongholds. Enemy team scoring.
I'm pausing it. I'm just kind of tired. I'm chilling. Just kind of randomly turn it on. You never know when it'll pop up. Shut people up. There's like a bar there. On my elbow, it's like a bar. Into my some bass or something into my ear. That's crazy. Babyface, dude. Al Capone.
Your team scoring. Gained the lead. Enemy team scoring. Your team scoring. Gained the lead.
Target spotted. Enemy there.
Enemy team scoring. Your team scoring. Halfway to victory. Enemy team scoring. Your team scoring.
That's what I'm saying. Call of Duty versus this. It's like, there's no way. You're bullshitting me on some duty. Hey, yellow, dude.
He rose up slowly. "Don't be long, my dear," he said to Esther. "I shall not wait up for you. Good night, Herman. Good night, Arnold." He passed the door and began to ascend the stairs. He turned. "Arnold," he began. "No, never mind. I will tell you tomorrow." He never told me. He was gone, and we three went downstairs, out of the house, and crossed the garden toward the Institute, whose squat form blocked the view of the road. Croydon, in the distance, hummed like a huge dynamo. The bear dipped slantingly above. The wind was shaking down the fading petals of the rambler roses. I remember the picture more vividly than I perceived it then. The intense darkness, the white lights of the distant town, the yellow lamp glow on the short grass, cut off squarely by the window sash and trisected by the window bars. Lazaroff led the way, walking a little distance in front of us toward the annex, a building just completed, in which was the new freezing plant, with our few guinea pigs and the monkeys that had been bought recently, out of our own money, for the great experiment. He drew a key from his pocket and began fumbling with the lock. Esther stopped in the shadows at my side. "He asked me to marry him," she said. "I told him never, never. That was the word I used. I used to think that I could care for him, Arnold, but in that instant I knew, yes, I knew my heart. I knew mine, too, and I took her in my arms in the shadow of the Institute. She lifted her mouth to mine. All the while Lazaroff was fumbling with the lock, yet I am sure he was aware, by virtue of that intuition which tells us all vital things. When he had opened the door, he turned a switch, and the interior leaped into view round 20 points of light that pierced the shadows. "Come in, Arnold," he said, turning to me, and I thought there was blood on his lips. "I will lead, and you and Miss Esther can follow me. Don't be alarmed, Miss Esther, if you hear the monkeys screaming. They grow lonely at night." "Poor little things! How dreadful!" Esther said. "We shall not keep them here very long," Lazaroff answered in extenuation. He stooped over a cane chair and picked up a warm shawl. "You will need to put this about you," he continued, standing back and leaving me to adjust it about Esther's shoulders. So he had planned to bring her here. His subtle mind had foreseen even this detail. He left nothing to the unexpected. He lived up to his principles. We passed between two silent dynamos. The freezing plant was already in operation, but George, the machinist, went off duty at 6 after stopping the dynamos, and the temperature did not rise much during the night. It was very cold. The moisture on the brick walls had congealed to a thin film of ice, and a frosted network covered the ammonia pipes. Lazaroff stopped in front of a large wooden chest with a glass door. "In this very ordinary-looking icebox we keep our choicest specimens," he said to Esther. "Don't open that!" I exclaimed. He laughed disagreeably. "I had no intention of doing so," he answered. "You applauded Sir Spofford's medieval vitalistic views tonight, Pennell, and the transition from the dream to the reality might prove too disturbing for your peace of mind. Dream on, by permission of those 5 missing centimeters. It is such an extinguisher of the soul theory to see parts of the organism flourishing in perfect health, all ready to work and grow, devoid of consciousness and brain attachments. We have 2/5 of a guinea pig's heart, Miss Esther, that is yearning to begin its pulsations as soon as it is placed in a suitable medium." He passed on. Esther's fingers gripped my wrist tightly. "What an abominable man!" she whispered. "Arnold, my dear, to think I didn't know my mind until an hour ago. When he asked me, something seemed to strip the mask from his face and the scales from my eyes. I hate him, but I'm afraid of him, Arnold. I drew her arm through mine and held her hand. Lazaroff preceded us down a flight of new concrete steps which had just dried. The cellar into which we descended had been used for storing packing cases, and we had always gone down by a short ladder. It was here that the experiment was to be made. I had been shown nothing of Lazaroff's preparations. The cellar had been paved with concrete since my last visit, and I thought it looked smaller than formerly. As we went down, we heard the monkeys begin to chatter. Lazaroff switched on a light. I saw a cage of guinea pigs close at hand. They squealed and scurried among their straw. Two monkeys, awakened by the light, put their arms about each other and grimaced at me. A tiny marmoset stretched out its black, human-like arms between the bars appealingly. It looked very lonely and childlike as it blinked at us. What a terrific journey into the future Lazaroff, like some god, planned for that atom of flesh. He stopped at the end of the cellar. I perceived now that the brick wall was new. It seemed to be an inner wall bounding a partition. That was why the cellar looked smaller. The half-dried mortar clung flabbily to the interstices. "Can you find the entrance, Arnold?" asked Lazaroff. The entrance? The light was not strong, to be sure, but still it seemed impossible that there could be an ingress into that solid wall. Lazaroff touched a brick, and a large mass swung inward like a door. In fact, it was a door, with bricks facing it, the outer edge contiguous with the outer edge of the fixed rows, so that the deception was perfect. "You didn't tell me that the chamber was completed, Lazaroff?"
I just don't agree.
exclaimed in surprise. "No, Arnold? Well, but I don't tell you everything," he answered. We stepped through the doorway, and Lazaroff switched on a tiny light within. Now I perceived that we were standing in a long and very narrow space, with cement-faced walls and roof, making the chamber impervious to sound and light. It was below the level of the ground, and thus, as Lazaroff had said, earthquakes might happen above, and it would never be discovered, not even though the annex were pulled down, unless one blasted out the foundations. The sole contents were 3 large cylinders of metal, looking like giant thermos bottles. Each was about 6 feet long, too long for a monkey, it seemed to me, and had a glass plate in front. Lazaroff drove his heel against the glass of the nearest cylinder with all his might. "It is quite unbreakable, you see," he said. "It will turn a rifle bullet. Suffragette glass, the maker calls it." "But what are these for?" asked Esther. "These, Miss Esther, are to convey 3 monkeys into the 21st century," answered Lazaroff. "By instantaneously suspending animation at a temperature of 25 degrees, we hope to maintain the bodily organism without change until the time for their awakening comes. The problem is whether that mysterious byproduct of matter called consciousness will return." "How dreadful!" exclaimed Esther, shuddering. "But the temperature will rise, Lazaroff," I interposed. "And however carefully your cylinders are made, it is impossible to hope to maintain the internal heat at only 25 degrees during a century." "You forget that our monkeys will be sealed in a vacuum," he answered. "There is an inner and an outer case of vanadium steel mixed with a secret composition which will resist even thermite. And even if the temperature does rise, well, if a homely instance may be allowed, you are aware that canned beef, as the Americans term it, will remain fresh in an airtight tin even in the tropics. That is dead matter, while our monkeys will be millions of living cells. The vacuum is created by simply screwing on this cap." "But not a perfect vacuum," I interposed. "That is impossible." sufficiently
vibe,
near
bro.
to eliminate the
been a
aerobic
while.
bacilli which flourish on oxygen, and the infinitesimal amount of that remaining in the cylinder is probably absorbed and transmuted by the surface capillaries and lungs, leaving simply carbon dioxide, neon, krypton, etc. I examined the cylinder nearest me with interest. A small dial was set into its cap. Lazaroff anticipated my question. That is the most ingenious part of the mechanism, he explained. It is a 100-year clock, made specially for me by Jurgensen of Copenhagen and, to salve your conscience, paid for, like the cylinders, out of my private purse. It runs true to within 0.3 of a second. The alarm can be set to any year, if necessary. A good alarm clock for lazy people, Miss Esther. This one, you see, I have already set to 100 years ahead. This is at 65. I shall set that to 100 presently, for we don't want one of our monkeys to awaken several generations ahead of his friends. This one is not set. Now, observe, I turn the hands on the dials. The large figures are years, the smaller ones are days. Now, as soon as the cap is screwed on, the internal vacuum causes this lever to fall, catching this cam and starting the mechanism. We have then a bottled monkey in an indestructible shell, for really I do not know what could make much impression on steel of this thickness, which is both resistant and malleable and fireproof too. It is impossible, in short, to release the inmate before the appointed time, and even then, immediate death would ensue. Why?
You're
I
confused,
asked.
dude.
Because resuscitation must be gradual. I base my hopes upon the chance that the lungs and heart will automatically resume their functions, being in their most perfect medium. But if air were admitted before the bodily machine had become, so to say, synchronized, the swarm of microorganisms would make short work of our subject. Besides, the hasty respiration produced
know.
by this rush of air would produce immediate death by its transformation into carbon dioxide. The air must enter under slight pressure in minute quantities during a period of about 10 days. Very well. As the timepiece gradually runs down, the cap slowly unscrews, and a tiny quantity of filtered air leaks in. It is so arranged that, at the exact end of the period, the cap flies off and the subject awakes. Herman, said Esther hurriedly, I don't like this. It isn't right, and I am sure my father does not know about it. My dear Miss Esther, I assure you that it is a very ordinary scientific experiment, Lazaroff answered, laughing. Come, Arnold, he added. Why not get in yourself and try how it feels? You're not afraid. In my clothes? Certainly. Arnold, I don't want you to get into that thing, Esther protested. Of course, if our friend is afraid that I am going to screw him up for a century, began Lazaroff. I am not at all afraid. I returned, a little nettled. How do I get in? I'll have to help you, Lazaroff answered. It was not made for a big man in clothes. Button your coat. Now, put your arms down by your sides. He rolled a cylinder upon the floor, and I put my feet inside rather reluctantly and squeezed down to the bottom. Lazaroff looked at me and burst into loud laughter. Not much room to turn around, is there? He said, raising the cylinder with an effort and standing it on its base again. Come out, Arnold, pleaded Esther, and I saw that her face was white with fear. But I was quite helpless, and above me I saw Lazaroff smiling at my predicament. Now, if I were going to be so unkind as to send you into the next century, he said, to be the only animist with a defective skull in a world of vile materialism, please, Herman, for my sake, Esther implored. I should put on the cap, he said, and fitted it. He must have touched some mechanism that I had not seen, for instantly the cap began to whir on the screw. Through the glass face, I caught a last glimpse of Esther's terrified eyes. The image blurred and vanished as my breath dimmed the glass and frosted it. I heard the swift jar of the cap mechanism end in a jarring click. I gasped for air. There was none. My head swam. My throat was closed. The blackness was pricked into flecks of fire. I groped for memory through unconsciousness and ceased. End of Chapter 2. Read by Brian Fullen, Plano, Texas, January 2025.
Enemy flag returned.
Chapter 3 of The Messiah of the Cylinder by Victor Rousseau. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. In the cellar. I have heard patients emerging from the chloroform swoon describe how,
Is there a reason
before
we're not getting the
awakening,
flag here?
they had seemed to view
Goddamn.
themselves lying unconscious upon their beds, detailing the posture of their motionless bodies and
I don't give a
inert
fuck,
limbs.
dude. Personally.
In this way,
I can't
now,
wait.
I seemed to see myself. I am sure that was no dream of the vague borderland between death and
Obnoxious
life.
as fuck.
I
can
saw
feel
the
vibe.
pallid
I do
face,
not give a
so
fuck.
shrunken that the
I'm
skin
about to start
clung to
screaming at
the
your fucking
edged
ass because
bones, and
Get
the
the
dry
goddamn screaming
hair,
bitch off
the
me.
pinched lips, and
We
waxen
don't care
hands.
at all.
I saw myself as if from
At all.
some non-spatial point, and with singular indifference, except that one fragment of knowledge detached
Screaming
from my
fucking baby.
serene
Get off my
omniscience
brain, dude.
troubled me.
Get out.
I had to return within that physical envelope, and behind me lay dim memories, quite untranslatable, but ineffably rapturous, which made that projected incarnation an event of dread. Vague images of earthly things began to float upward out of the dark, as it were, symbols of physical life whose meaning
get the
remained
fuck
obscure.
out.
I pictured
God
a
damn, you're
springboard
such a little
on which
fucking
a
bitch.
swimmer stood poised,
Why the fuck do
waiting
these
to
goddamn
dive into
morons
the
have
sea
this
and
fucking
set the
device?
plank behind
Why
him
the fuck are you
quivering,
there, you
and a
dumb sack of
large
shit?
roll of some material
Really?
like a
Get
carpet
the fuck out of
blocking
that
a cellar
goddamn fucking
door.
device.
Gradually, through an alternation of
Fucking
dreams
goddamn
and
fanatic little
blankness,
bitch.
I began to be aware of the parched and withered body that cloaked me. The point
out.
of consciousness had shrunk within its earthly
Piece of
envelope.
shit.
Soon it diffused itself throughout my members. Now I could translate my symbols into
Get the fucking
ideas.
wave off me,
That coiled up
hovercraft.
substance that blocked the door was my tongue, fallen back into the throat. And the springboard on which the swimmer stood, that was my
Get the
heart
hovercraft outta
waiting
here.
to beat. And unless and until the swimmer, I, made that plunge into life's ocean, it could not. Slowly, the need of physical resurrection urged me onward. 1,000 darts were stabbing in my flesh like purgatorial fire. No motor nerve had yet awakened, but the capillaries, opening, pricked me like red-hot needles. Faint memories of the past flashed through my mind, and, though I recalled no intervening period, I was sensible
sure he
that
turned around and
those
got that guy
events
too.
had
I had
happened
no doubt.
infinitely long
You need
before.
to stop that.
Suddenly I plunged.
Dude, you have
I
no
felt
clue how
as
bad
if
you're
a
pissing me
sword
off.
had pierced my body.
And I'm here
I
doing more than
felt
pissing
the
me
waters
off.
of that living ocean close over my face and gasped. I breathed. Simultaneously, with a loud click, the cap of the cylinder flew off. Air rushed in. A stabbing light broke through my closed eyelids. I fainted. It was, of course, the gradual unscrewing of the cylinder cap as the mechanism ran down, and the consequent admission of minute quantities of oxygen that had begun to restore me. I must have passed several days in semi-consciousness before the cylinder opened.
Really? You're
When the
such a
last
fucking little
thread of the
bitch,
screw
dude.
was traversed,
You're a little bitch. I don't know how many times I have to tell you. You are a little bitch, dude. Oh, right, fanatic little bitch. Go ahead with that hovercraft. Yeah, because I'm that fanatical. Goddamn retard. No, thank you, piece of shit. You can get the fuck out with that goddamn shit with my name on it, you dumbass. I cannot wait. You can go ahead. What is it, tomorrow? You already got the shelter, huh? I can't wait. You know what I mean? If you're gonna be like that, you bitch. I'm good on the hovercraft. No, it doesn't increase my, no, ladies. Men, stop trying to, boost their ego. I'm not. Got it? Hovercraft, you jackass. Get out. Period. Jackass, get out. Here's a number. Get out. Retard. Get off the desk. Get off. You're going to jail for this, dude. It's like, I look at myself, thanks. Did not finish. No, why would I do that? Sit there and listen to that shit. Like, no, you did not, and yes, you are. Get the fuck out. Man, way to ruin a game. Get this going. God damn, dude. Everything about you is just slimy. Fucking. How do these people get headlined? Really, that does it for me. I'm good on that. I'll be on tomorrow.